The champagne flute trembled in my hand as I watched my mother-in-law's manicured fingers slide the manila envelope across the white tablecloth. The restaurant buzzed around us, clinking silverware, muffled conversations, the soft jazz that had been playing when I'd walked in expecting birthday cake. Instead, I was staring at papers that would end my marriage. "Happy birthday, Brooke," Linda said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Across from me, my husband Marcus held up his phone, that familiar smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. The red recording light blinked like a tiny, malicious eye. What was he expecting? Tears? Screaming? A public breakdown for their entertainment? Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you're hooked already, a like and subscribe will keep these stories coming. I set down my champagne and opened the envelope with steady hands. The divorce papers were already filled out, Marcus's signature bold and confident at the bottom. All they needed was mine. I could smell Linda's expensive perfume mixing with the garlic from the kitchen, could hear Marcus's breathing quicken as he waited for my reaction. "You know," I said, pulling a pen from my purse, "this is actually perfect timing." Linda's eyebrows shot up. Marcus lowered his phone slightly, confusion flickering across his face. I signed my name with a flourish, the pen scratching against the paper in quick, decisive strokes. "There. All done." I slid the papers back across the table and stood, smoothing down my red dress, the one I'd bought specifically for tonight, thinking we were celebrating. "Wait, what?" Marcus fumbled with his phone, nearly dropping it. "Brooke, sit down. We're not. This isn't how this was supposed to go." "Oh, but it is." I picked up my purse, noting how the other diners had started to notice our table. A woman in pearls kept glancing over, her fork suspended halfway to her mouth. "You wanted a reaction, Marcus. You wanted to humiliate me on my birthday, film it for your little collection of cruelties. But here's the thing." I leaned down, close enough that only they could hear me, close enough to see the panic starting to creep into Linda's perfectly made-up eyes. "I've been 3 steps ahead of you for months." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Marcus's face had gone pale, and Linda's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "What do you mean?" Linda whispered. I straightened up, slinging my purse over my shoulder. "Check your bank accounts. Both of you. Check them tonight." The color drained completely from Marcus's face. His phone clattered onto the table. "You didn't," he breathed. "Happy birthday to me," I said and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Linda's sharp intake of breath, followed by Marcus's chair scraping against the floor as he scrambled for his phone. The maitre d' looked concerned as I passed, probably wondering if he should intervene in whatever domestic drama was unfolding at table 12. The cool evening air hit my face as I stepped outside, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. My heels clicked against the sidewalk as I walked toward my car, each step taking me further from the life I'd been suffocating in. My phone buzzed. Then again. And again. Marcus was calling. I let it ring as I unlocked my car, sliding into the driver's seat. The leather was warm from the day's heat, and I could see the restaurant's golden light spilling onto the sidewalk through my rear-view mirror. Part of me wondered if they were still sitting there, staring at those signed papers, trying to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed with a text. "What did you do?" Then another. "Brooke, answer your phone." And another. "The accounts are empty." I smiled, starting the engine. The radio came on automatically, some pop song about empowerment that felt almost too perfect for the moment. As I pulled out of the parking space, I caught a glimpse of Marcus bursting through the restaurant doors, his face wild with panic. He spotted my car and started running toward me, his expensive suit jacket flapping behind him like broken wings. Linda appeared behind him, clutching her purse, her composure finally cracking. I rolled down my window as Marcus reached my car, his hands slapping against the glass. "Brooke, you can't just... Where's the money? Where did you put it?" "Somewhere safe," I said calmly. "Somewhere you'll never find it. That's theft. That's justice." I put the car in drive. "Oh, and Marcus? You might want to check the news tomorrow." Channel 7 is running a very interesting story about Carter Construction's tax evasion. Funny how these things come to light right when you need them to. His face went white as a sheet. Linda had caught up now, her heels clicking frantically on the asphalt. "You recorded everything," she gasped, understanding dawning in her eyes. "All those business dinners, all those conversations. Every single one." I gave them both a bright smile. Turns out I'm pretty good with technology when I put my mind to it. Who knew? Marcus stepped back from the car, his mouth opening and closing soundlessly. In the distance, I could hear sirens, police cars getting closer. "Have a wonderful evening," I said and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I watched them standing there in the parking lot, two figures growing smaller and smaller until they disappeared entirely. The sirens were getting louder now, and I had a feeling I knew exactly where they were headed. My phone rang again. This time it wasn't Marcus. "Ms. Carter?" The voice was professional, crisp. "This is Detective Morrison with the Financial Crimes Unit. We've received some very interesting evidence regarding Carter Construction. We'd like to schedule a time to speak with you." "Of course," I said, pulling into a gas station to take the call properly. "I've been waiting for your call." As I sat there in the fluorescent glow of the gas station lights, I thought about the last 6 months. The careful planning, the secret recordings, the offshore accounts I'd discovered, the evidence I'd been gathering piece by piece. Marcus and Linda thought they were so clever, so untouchable. They had no idea that the quiet, submissive wife they'd been tormenting had been building a case against them the entire time. My phone buzzed with another text from Marcus. "We can work this out. Come home. We'll talk." I deleted it without responding. Then another. "Brooke, please. The police are here." I turned off my phone and sat in the silence for a moment, watching the traffic flow past on the highway. Somewhere behind me, my old life was crumbling. Marcus was probably in handcuffs by now, and Linda was likely discovering that her precious social standing was about to become front-page news. But as I sat there, something cold settled in my stomach. A realization that made my hands shake as I gripped the steering wheel. If the police had moved this fast, if they were already at the restaurant, that meant someone else had been watching. Someone else had been waiting for exactly this moment. Someone who knew about my plan before I'd even finished executing it. I looked up at the gas station's security camera, its red light blinking steadily, and felt the first real stab of fear I'd experienced all evening. Who else had been playing this game? The motel room smelled like stale cigarettes and industrial disinfectant, but it was clean and anonymous, exactly what I needed. I'd paid cash for 3 nights, using a name that wasn't mine, at a place where nobody asked questions. The neon sign outside cast pink and blue shadows across the thin curtains as I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the burner phone I'd bought 6 months ago. It had been ringing for the past hour. Each time, the same unknown number. Each time, I let it go to voicemail. But whoever was calling wasn't giving up, and that scared me more than Marcus's threats or Linda's connections ever had. The phone buzzed again. This time, I answered. "Hello, Brooke." The voice was smooth, professional, with just a hint of an accent I couldn't place. "We need to talk." My blood turned to ice. "Who is this?" "Someone who's been watching your little chess game with great interest. You played it beautifully, by the way. The birthday dinner, the signed papers, the perfectly timed police raid. Very theatrical." I stood up, moving to the window to peer through the curtains. The parking lot was empty except for a few scattered cars and a semi-truck idling near the highway entrance. "What do you want?" "The same thing you wanted, actually. Justice. But you see, Brooke, you only uncovered the tip of the iceberg. Carter Construction's tax evasion? That's small potatoes compared to what your husband and his mother have really been up to." The phone felt slippery in my sweaty palm. "I don't know what you're talking about." A low chuckle. "Of course you don't. You thought you were so thorough, recording those dinner conversations, tracking the offshore accounts. But you missed the big picture. The construction contracts with the city, the bribes to planning commissioners, the buildings that were supposed to be earthquake-safe but weren't. The elementary school that collapsed in Sacramento last year. Remember that?" My legs gave out. I sank back onto the bed, the room spinning around me. That was a gas leak. The investigation said. The investigation said what Marcus and Linda paid them to say. Faulty construction, Brooke. Corners cut, safety standards ignored. All to save a few $1,000s per project. 12 children died in that collapse. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the cheap carpet. I could hear the voice continuing to speak, but the words seemed to come from very far away. 12 children. I thought about the news coverage, the grieving parents, the flowers piled outside the school's twisted remains. I picked up the phone with shaking hands. You're lying. I wish I were. Check your email, Brooke. The account you set up for your evidence gathering, Brooke Carter 2024. I've sent you some files that will make your little tax evasion case look like a parking ticket. How do you know about that email? But even as I asked, I was reaching for my laptop, my fingers trembling as I typed in the password. I've been watching you for a long time. Ever since you started asking questions about those construction contracts. You're not the only one who wanted to bring down the Carter empire. The email was there, sent just minutes ago from an address that was nothing but random numbers and letters. The subject line read, "The Real Story." I clicked on the first attachment. Engineering reports, stamped and official, showing structural deficiencies in dozens of buildings across California. Schools, hospitals, apartment complexes, all built by Carter Construction, all cutting corners that could cost lives. The second attachment made my stomach lurch. Photos of Marcus and Linda at what looked like a private club, shaking hands with men in expensive suits. City officials I recognized from the news. Planning commissioners. Building inspectors. The third attachment was a video file. I hesitated, my cursor hovering over the play button. Whatever was on this video, I knew it would change everything. There would be no going back to my quiet revenge, no simple divorce and fresh start. I clicked play. The video was grainy, clearly shot from a hidden camera. Marcus sat across from a man I recognized as the city's chief building inspector, a briefcase open between them on the table. Stacks of cash were visible inside. The Riverside Elementary project needs to pass inspection next week, Marcus was saying. No delays, no questions about the foundation work. That's a lot of money for a routine inspection, the inspector replied, but his hands were already reaching for the briefcase. It's not routine. The concrete didn't cure properly. We're 6 weeks behind schedule, and the city's breathing down our necks. Just sign off on it, and everyone wins. And if there's a problem later? Marcus shrugged. There won't be. And if there is, it'll be an act of God. Gas leak, earthquake, whatever. These things happen. The video cut off. I stared at the black screen, my mind reeling. Riverside Elementary. That was the school that had collapsed. 12 children, crushed under concrete that was never meant to hold their weight. The phone was still in my other hand. Why are you showing me this? Because you started something tonight that you can't finish alone. Marcus and Linda aren't just going down for tax evasion. They're going down for murder. But they have powerful friends, Brooke. Friends who will make this all disappear if we don't move fast. You exposed their financial crimes. I have evidence of their real crimes. Together, we can make sure they never hurt anyone again. I closed the laptop, my hands shaking so badly I could barely manage it. Who are you? Really? Someone who lost everything because of Carter Construction. Someone who's been waiting 3 years for the right moment to strike back. The motel room felt smaller suddenly, the walls pressing in around me. The school collapse. You lost someone. A long pause. My daughter, Emma. She was 7 years old, sitting in her second-grade classroom, when the ceiling came down. The official report said it was a gas explosion, but I knew better. I'm a structural engineer, Brooke. I know what building collapse looks like, and I know what gas explosions look like. They're not the same thing. My throat felt tight. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't bring her back. But justice might give her death some meaning. I stood up again, pacing the small space between the bed and the window. Outside, a police car had pulled into the parking lot. My heart hammered against my ribs as I watched the officer get out, but he just walked into the motel office. Probably getting coffee. What do you want me to do? Meet me tomorrow. There's a diner on Highway 101, about 20 miles north of where you are now. Mel's Place. Be there at noon. How do you know where I am? The same way I knew about your email account. The same way I knew you'd be at that restaurant tonight. I've been tracking Marcus and Linda's movements for months, waiting for the right opportunity. When I saw you gathering evidence, I knew you were my chance. The police car was pulling out of the parking lot now, its taillights disappearing into the night. This is insane. I should go to the police myself. Turn over everything I have. With what? Your recordings of tax discussions? Your evidence of offshore accounts? That's white-collar crime, Brooke. They'll get a few years in minimum security and be out in 18 months. The real evidence, the murder evidence, that's what I have. And I won't turn it over to anyone but you. Why me? Because you're the only one who can get close to them now. They trust you, or they did until tonight. They'll want to make a deal, offer you money to keep quiet about what you know. That's when we get them. I sank back onto the bed, exhaustion hitting me like a physical weight. 6 hours ago, I'd been planning a simple divorce and a quiet exit from my marriage. Now I was apparently part of some elaborate conspiracy to bring down a construction empire built on the graves of children. I need time to think. You don't have time. By tomorrow morning, Marcus will be out on bail. Linda will have called in every favor she's owed. They'll disappear, Brooke. New identities, offshore accounts you don't know about, private jets to countries without extradition treaties. This is your only chance. The phone went dead. I sat in the silence of the motel room, listening to the hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of highway traffic. My laptop sat closed on the small table, containing evidence that could destroy lives and maybe save others. 12 children. 7-year-old Emma, sitting in her classroom when the world came crashing down. I thought about Marcus's smirk as he filmed me at the restaurant, about Linda's satisfied smile as she slid those divorce papers across the table. They'd thought they were so clever, so untouchable. They had no idea what was coming. My regular phone buzzed with a text message. Marcus again. Brooke, please. We can fix this. Come home. Then another. The charges are bogus. You know that. We can beat this together. And finally, don't make me do something we'll both regret. I stared at that last message for a long time. It wasn't a plea anymore, it was a threat. I turned off the phone and walked to the window again. The parking lot was empty now, just pools of yellow light under the street lamps and the endless stretch of highway beyond. Somewhere out there, a stranger who'd lost his daughter was waiting for my answer. Somewhere else, Marcus and Linda were probably planning their next move, calling lawyers and fixers and whoever else they had in their pocket. And somewhere, in a cemetery I'd never visited, a 7-year-old girl named Emma was waiting for justice. I opened my laptop and started typing an email to the mysterious number that had contacted me. I'll be at the diner at noon, but I want to know your name first. If we're going to do this, I need to know who I'm trusting. I hit send and waited. The response came back almost immediately. David Chen. Emma was my daughter. And Brooke? Thank you. I closed the laptop and lay back on the motel bed, staring at the water-stained ceiling. Tomorrow, everything would change again. Tonight, I just needed to sleep and try not to dream about collapsing buildings and the sound of children screaming. But as I drifted off, one thought kept circling through my mind like a vulture. If David Chun had been watching me for months, gathering evidence, planning this elaborate takedown, what else did he know about my life that I didn't? And more importantly, what else was he not telling me? Mel's Place looked exactly like every roadside diner in America. Cracked vinyl booths, fluorescent lights that hummed too loudly, and coffee that could strip paint. I'd been sitting in a corner booth for 20 minutes, nursing a cup of that coffee and watching the parking lot through grease-stained windows. At exactly noon, a silver Honda pulled up. The man who got out was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with dark hair and tired eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He moved with the careful precision of someone who'd learned not to trust the world around him. David Chen slid into the booth across from me, declining the waitress's offer of coffee with a polite shake of his head. Up close, I could see the grief etched into the lines around his eyes, the way his hands trembled slightly as he placed a manila folder on the table between us. "You came," he said simply. I almost didn't. I pushed my coffee cup aside, the bitter taste still coating my tongue. I spent all night thinking about this, about Emma, about those 12 children. But I also kept thinking about how you knew so much about me, about my plans. It's not just surveillance, is it? His jaw tightened. What do you mean? I mean you knew I'd be at that restaurant last night. You knew exactly when to send those files, exactly when the police would arrive. That's not just watching from a distance. That's inside information. David was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming against the table. Outside, a semi-truck rumbled past, making the windows rattle. "You're right," he said finally. "I haven't been entirely honest with you." My stomach dropped. "What aren't you telling me?" "I'm not just a grieving father seeking justice. I'm FBI, Brooke. Financial Crimes Division. I've been building a case against Carter Construction for 3 years, ever since Emma died." The diner suddenly felt too small, too bright. "You're a federal agent?" "Was. I took a leave of absence after Emma's death became officially classified as an accident. My superiors thought I was too emotionally compromised to work the case objectively. They were probably right." I leaned back against the vinyl booth, my mind racing. "So this whole thing, me gathering evidence, the divorce papers, the restaurant, you orchestrated all of it?" "No." His voice was sharp, urgent. "That was all you, Brooke. I just guided things along when I could. Made sure the right people saw your evidence at the right time. Made sure Marcus and Linda felt secure enough to keep operating while you built your case." Jesus Christ. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building behind my eyes. "Do you have any idea what you've put me through? The fear, the planning, thinking I was so clever." "You were clever. You are clever. Everything you did, every piece of evidence you gathered, it's all legitimate. It's all admissible in court. I just made sure it got to the right prosecutors instead of disappearing into some bureaucratic black hole." The waitress approached our table, coffee pot in hand, but David waved her away. When she was gone, he leaned forward, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Brooke, there's something else. Something I didn't tell you last night, because I wasn't sure you'd go through with meeting me." "What now?" "Marcus and Linda didn't just disappear after the police raid. They're dead." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "Car accident, about 3 hours after you left the restaurant. Single vehicle collision on Highway 1, went right through the guardrail and into the ocean. Both bodies recovered this morning." I stared at him, my mouth opening and closing soundlessly. That's impossible. I just got texts from Marcus last night. He was threatening me." "Those texts came from his phone, yes. But Marcus was already dead when they were sent." The diner spun around me. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to anchor myself to something solid. "You're saying someone else sent those messages?" "I'm saying Marcus and Linda Carter were murdered, Brooke. And whoever killed them has Marcus's phone." My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold them still. "Why? Why would someone kill them now, right when they were about to be arrested?" David opened the manila folder and slid a photograph across the table. It showed the wreckage of a black Mercedes, twisted metal and broken glass scattered across the rocky shoreline. Because dead people can't testify. Can't make deals with prosecutors. Can't name names. Names of who? The people who were really running the show. Marcus and Linda were middle management, Brooke. The corruption goes much higher than a construction company cutting corners for profit. I picked up the photograph with trembling fingers. The car was completely destroyed, barely recognizable as a vehicle. "How do you know it was murder?" "Because I was following them. I saw the other car, the one that forced them off the road. Black SUV, no plates, tinted windows. It rammed them from behind just before the curve, then disappeared." "And you didn't try to help them?" David's face hardened. "They killed my daughter. They killed 11 other children. Forgive me if I wasn't in a hurry to save their lives." "But you said it was murder." "It was. But not by me. I wanted them alive, Brooke. I wanted them to face trial, to have their crimes exposed in open court. Dead, they're just victims of a tragic accident. The real criminals stay hidden. I set the photograph down, my mind struggling to process everything. So, what happens now? The evidence I gathered, the recordings. Still valuable. Still admissible. But without Marcus and Linda to corroborate the details, to name their co-conspirators, it's going to be much harder to build a case against the bigger fish. The bigger fish being? David pulled out another photograph, this one showing a group of men in expensive suits at what looked like a private club. I recognized some of the faces from local news, city councilmen, planning commissioners, the mayor himself. The Riverside Group. They call themselves a business association, but they're really a criminal organization that's been controlling construction contracts in California for over a decade. Carter Construction was just one of their front companies. I studied the photograph, noting the casual way these powerful men stood together, drinks in hand, smiling for the camera. How do you know all this? Because Emma's school wasn't their first victim. There have been others, a hospital in Fresno with faulty electrical work that caused a fire, an apartment complex in San Diego that collapsed during a minor earthquake. Dozens of deaths, all covered up, all blamed on accidents or acts of God. And you think they killed Marcus and Linda to keep them quiet? I know they did. The question is, what are we going to do about it? I looked around the diner, at the other customers eating their lunch in blissful ignorance of the conversation happening in our corner booth. A family with 2 young children, the kids coloring on paper placemats while their parents talked quietly. A construction worker in a hard hat, probably on his lunch break from some job site where he trusted that the building he was working on was safe and sound. "We're going to stop them," I said quietly. David nodded. "But it's going to be dangerous. These people have already killed 3 times to protect their secret. They won't hesitate to kill again." "What do you need me to do?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device that looked like a hearing aid. "This is a wire. State-of-the-art, completely undetectable. I need you to wear it to Marcus's funeral." "His funeral? When?" "Tomorrow. Linda's family is holding a joint service at St. Mary's Cathedral. All the major players will be there, city officials, business leaders, everyone who is part of the Riverside Group. They'll be expecting you to show up as the grieving widow." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Grieving widow? I signed divorce papers 12 hours before he died. Papers that were never filed. Legally, you're still his wife. You inherit everything, the house, the business, his stake in all those construction contracts. You're now one of the most powerful people in the California construction industry. The weight of that realization settled over me like a lead blanket. They'll want to recruit me. Exactly. They'll approach you at the funeral, offer their condolences, suggest a private meeting to discuss business matters. That's when we get them. I picked up my coffee cup, then set it down again without drinking. My hands were still shaking. What if they suspect something? What if they know I was gathering evidence against Marcus? They don't. As far as they know, you were the perfect submissive wife who knew nothing about her husband's business dealings. The divorce papers actually helped sell that story. You found out about his affairs and wanted out, but you had no idea about the criminal activity. And if they figure out I'm wearing a wire? David's expression was grim. Then you'll end up like Marcus and Linda. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the decision hanging between us. Outside, the lunch rush was picking up, cars pulling into the parking lot as people stopped for a quick meal before continuing their journeys to wherever normal people went on normal days. "There's something else," David said finally. "Something I need to tell you before you decide." "What now?" "The reason I was following Marcus and Linda last night, the reason I was in position to see them get murdered, I wasn't just conducting surveillance. I was planning to kill them myself." My blood turned to ice. "What?" "I had a gun, Brooke. I was going to wait until they left the restaurant, follow them to a secluded spot, and put bullets in both their heads. I wanted them to know why they were dying, wanted them to hear Emma's name before they took their last breath." I stared at him, this mild-mannered man with his wire-rimmed glasses and tired eyes, trying to reconcile his appearance with what he'd just confessed. "But you didn't." "No. Because when I saw you walk out of that restaurant, Saw the way you'd handled the whole situation with such grace and strength. I realized there was a better way. A way that would honor Emma's memory instead of just satisfying my need for revenge. So you decided to use me instead. I decided to partner with you. There's a difference. I looked down at the wire he'd placed on the table, such a small thing to carry such enormous risk. If I do this, if I wear that wire tomorrow, what guarantee do I have that you won't disappear afterward? That you won't leave me to face the consequences alone? David reached across the table and took my hand. His fingers were warm, steady, completely different from Marcus's cold, calculating touch. Because I'm not going anywhere, Brooke. This case, bringing down the people who killed Emma, it's the only thing keeping me alive right now. Without it, without the hope of justice, I'd have eaten my gun months ago. I looked into his eyes and saw the truth there, the raw pain that no amount of professional training could hide. This wasn't just about justice for him, it was about survival. Okay, I said quietly. I'll do it.
He squeezed my hand.
Thank you. But I have conditions. Name them. First, no more lies. No more surprises. If there's anything else I need to know, you tell me now. Agreed. Second, when this is over, when we've got what we need to bring down the Riverside group, you get help. Real help. Therapy, grief counseling, whatever it takes. Emma wouldn't want her father to destroy himself seeking revenge for her death. David's eyes filled with tears. She was going to be a teacher, you know. Like her mother. She used to play school with her dolls, always making sure the quiet ones got called on, always helping the ones who were struggling. She sounds wonderful.
She was.
She was everything good in the world, and they crushed her like she was nothing. I squeezed his hand back. Then let's make sure her death means something. Let's make sure no other children die because of their greed. David wiped his eyes and straightened up, the FBI agent reasserting himself over the grieving father. The funeral is tomorrow at 2 p.m. Wear something appropriate for a widow, black dress, minimal jewelry. I'll be there too, posing as a family friend. If anything goes wrong, if you feel like you're in danger, just say the word Emma and I'll get you out of there. And if everything goes right, then by tomorrow night, we'll have enough evidence to bring down one of the most corrupt criminal organizations on the West Coast. I picked up the wire, turning it over in my palm. Such a small thing, but it felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. One more question, I said. After Marcus and Linda were murdered, after their car went into the ocean, did you call it in? Did you report what you saw? David shook his head.
No.
I couldn't risk exposing my investigation. But someone else did, an anonymous 911 call about 20 minutes after the crash. The caller claimed to be a passing motorist who saw the car go over the guardrail. But you think it was the killer? I know it was. Because the caller described details that would only be visible from the crash site itself, not from the road above. Whoever killed them wanted the bodies found quickly. Why? Because they needed to control the narrative. Car accident, tragic loss, case closed. If the bodies had washed out to sea or taken days to find, there might have been more questions, more investigation. I slipped the wire into my purse, feeling its weight settle against my hip. So they're not just murderers, they're smart murderers. The smartest, which is why we only get one chance at this, Brooke. Tomorrow, at the funeral, we either get what we need to bring them down or we become their next victims. I stood up, leaving money on the table for my untouched coffee. Then we better make it count. As I walked toward the door, David called after me. Brooke. I turned back. For what it's worth, I think Emma would have liked you. You're exactly the kind of person she would have grown up to be, strong, brave, willing to fight for what's right. I felt tears prick at my eyes. I hope I don't let her down. You won't, David said quietly. You can't. Because tomorrow, you're not just Brooke Carter, grieving widow. You're Emma Chen's voice, speaking for all the children who can't speak for themselves. I walked out of the diner and into the bright afternoon sun, the weight of tomorrow's mission settling over me like armor. Somewhere in California, powerful men were planning to attend a funeral, to pay their respects to their fallen associates, to continue their criminal enterprise as if nothing had changed. They had no idea that Emma Chen's father was coming for them. And they had no idea that Marcus Carter's widow was going to help him do it. The war was just beginning.